Hello and welcome back, and everybody, Levi here, and in today's video I'm going over another changeling deck. This time it's for Thurid, Mare of Destiny, 2 white for a 2/4 Pegasus with flying and lifelink. It says whenever you cast a Pegasus, unicorn, or horse creature spell, you copy it. Also, other Pegasi, unicorns, and horses you control get +1/+1. So right out of the command zone you have a copy effect and a nice little anthem to buff up the rest of your team. I've been pretty obsessed with the changeling strategy as of late, just trying out different commanders and different color combinations. I much prefer the mono or 2-color versions of like a changeling deck, because then you can have like multiple different decks that are doing something kind of similar, but they're different enough to actually justify having multiple decks. So obviously the name of the game is get out a bunch of changelings, or hopefully our Masquerade Nexus, to make everything changelings, and then use a bunch of like lord effects that give certain creature types certain abilities, which I will go over a little bit later. But first I'll go over some of the changeling stuff. But before I get into that, I just want to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons for supporting the channel. I have a link to my Patreon down in the description below. I have a little video over there going over some of the perks you get, like personalized deck techs. I also have some videos over there going into really deep dives into my own personal deck, so if you'd like to see that, go ahead and click that link down below. Now obviously the changelings that have keywords already built into them are going to be the best ones, seeing as how this is going to be a primarily focused combat damage deck with a lot of the different lords and things like that. So having cards like Avian Changeling that already has flying is really going to help out the strategy. 2 and a white 2/2 Shapeshifter Changeling has flying, that's it. So it's just a 2/2 flyer, but with all the buffs, you just don't have to rely on getting this creature, evasion from one of your other creatures, which we do have tons of that, so it's not really a big deal, but it is nice to already have that built in. Obviously, I alluded to it earlier. The most important card in any changeling deck, Masquerade Nexus, 4-mana artifact. It gives all your creatures every creature type. The same is true for, the spells you control, creature cards that aren't on the battlefield. You can also pay 3 and tap it to pump out a 2/2 Shapeshifter token with changeling, so obviously this is the most important card in your deck. You can throw in some tutors or other ways to go get it. There are some other ways we can give our creatures changeling with cards like Amorphous Axe, 2-mana equipment, equip 3, equip creature gets +3/+0 in every creature type. So it's a nice buff. It's not just giving the creature types, it's also giving a +3/+0, which is what we want to be doing in this deck. We want to be buffing up our creatures. Similarly to that one, I have Ruined Stalactite, 1-mana equipment, equip 2, equip creature gets +1/+1 and is every creature type. So again, if there's just a couple of key creatures that we want to be throwing this on, say our commander or something like that, just to get those additional buffs from the rest of our team, giving it to your commander is definitely not a bad choice considering it already has flying and lifelink, so really easy to get in with combat damage. Next up, I'll go over some of the cards that buff up the rest of our team. Definitely one of the best ones in the deck is going to be Pack Leader, 1 and a white for a 2/2 dog. Other dogs you control get +1/+1, your typical standard lord, but it also helps us get in for combat damage. It says whenever Pack Leader attacks, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn to dogs you control. So with Pack Leader out, you don't have to worry about, swinging in for combat damage and dying in combat, because it basically prevents all the damage that was going to be done to your whole team, at least the ones you're going to be swinging with anyway. We have lots of protection in this category, like Battletide Alchemist, 3 white for a 3/4 Kithkin Cleric. If a source would deal damage to a player, you may prevent X of that damage, where X is the number of clerics you control. So this one's just protecting our life total. This could also be a politics card too. You can, make some deals around the table and say, hey, I can prevent some of that damage, but you got to do something for me in return. So definitely a few different ways you can use this card. Poultice Sliver up next, a good way to save our creatures if they would die. 2 and a white for a 2/2 sliver. It says all slivers have pay 2, tap it, regenerate target sliver. So one of your slivers can save like some of your other slivers. Probably not going to be saving your entire team, especially because it costs 2 mana, but it's better than nothing, and having it repeatable like that is absolutely worth an include. Sticking with the protection theme, Ward Sliver, 4 and a white for a 2/2 sliver. As this creature enters, you choose a color, and then all slivers have protection from that chosen color. Not only is this good for protecting your creatures from your opponent's removal, but it also helps us get in for combat damage. If we're playing against, say, like a mono green player, we just name green, basically giving our entire team protection from green, which allows us to not be blocked by green creatures, therefore granting our entire team unblockable. So really easy to get in with combat damage that way. I also threw in Scale Lord Reckoner, 3 white for a 4/4 dragon with flying. It says whenever a dragon you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, destroy target non-land permanent that player controls. So basically with this on the field, if any of your opponents want to target your stuff, you're going to be killing something of theirs in return, making it quite unlikely that your opponents are going to be picking on you, because you're definitely going to be killing something of theirs in return. And one of the best buff creatures I have in the deck, Regal Sliver, 3 and a white for a 3/3 sliver. It says sliver creatures you control have when this creature enters the battlefield, slivers you control get +1/+1 until end of turn if you're the monarch. Otherwise, you become the monarch. So very easily you can become the monarch in this deck. We're doing a lot of combat damage, so it's easy to get that back. So nice additional card draw, but that's not the only good part. Our commander, every time we cast one of our changelings, is giving us a second copy. So every time we cast one of our changelings with our commander out and the Regal Sliver, our whole team gets +2/+2. Not to mention, it is is an ETB, so those creatures that come in will also get the buff. Most of the time, they're not going to have haste, but there is some options for haste in this deck. I can go ahead and talk about the card draw here next. Obviously, a fantastic fit in all changeling decks. Vanquisher's Banner, 5-mana artifact. It says as it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type. The creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1, and whenever you cast a creature spell of the chosen type, you draw a card. So besides the shapeshifters, obviously, you can pick either humans. I have about 7 of those in the deck, 6 slivers, or you could just choose Pegasus if you haven't got your commander out yet. I don't know why you wouldn't have. Maybe it died and you're waiting for it to come back. But in any case, any changeling that you cast, you're going to be drawing cards off that. Not to mention, it also gives a little bit of a buff. Another fantastic draw option in this deck, it's Folk Hero, 1 and a white for a legendary enchantment background. Commander creatures you own have, whenever you cast a spell that shares a creature type with this creature, draw a card, only once per turn though. So with your commander out, Folk Hero out, every time you cast a changeling, you're going to be drawing a card. You know, it's once per turn, but still, just getting that extra card draw every turn is really good, especially because I also have some bounce in the deck. I'll talk about that a little bit later to reset, you know, our commander's ability. Being able to bounce one of our creatures back to our hand, then replay it will get us another copy of that creature. So we're constantly going to be casting a bunch of changelings and drawing cards off the Folk Hero. And then when you're creating those tokens, you have like Idol of Oblivion, 2-mana artifact, tap, draw a card, activate only if you created a token this turn. Most turns we're going to be creating tokens, so the extra card draw off the idol is definitely handy. Then we got somewhat of a new one out of Bloomborough, Harvest Right Host. Literally never seen this card before I was researching this deck. 2 and a white for a 3/3 Rabbit Citizen. Whenever Harvest Right Host or another creature you control enters, target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn, and then draw a card if this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn. So with your commander out and with the Harvest Right Host out, all you have to do is cast 1 changeling that will copy it with your commander. Then that means there's 2 rabbits entering the battlefield, drawing you a card. Not to mention, it also gives a little bit of a buff, which is in line with the rest of the deck. Since we're also attacking a lot in the deck, I threw Escarpment Fortress, 4 and a white for a 3/5 wall with Defender and Reach. It says other creatures you control get +1/+0. Just great little tack on. Also, whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures, you draw a card. I can't believe I've never even seen this card before. It's only like 30 cents. It's pretty good if you're in any white attacking theme. Just getting extra advantage off of attacking, like drawing cards. Not to mention, it also gives a buff. Got a couple of ramp pieces to talk about here. Dragon's Horde up first, 3-mana artifact. Whenever a dragon you control enters, put a gold counter on this artifact. You can tap, remove a gold counter from this artifact, draw a card, or you can tap to add 1 mana of any color. So early in the game, obviously, you throw this down as a 3-mana mana rock, taps for mana. A little bit later in the game, once you are playing out those changelings, instead of tapping this for mana, you can be tapping it to draw cards. I also threw in Kinjali's Collar, single white mana for a 0/3 human cleric. It says dinosaur spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Definitely nice since we are going to be picking up our changelings a lot and recasting them. So I think having the cost reducers is going to be saving you more mana in the long run. There's definitely some more you could throw in this deck. I just threw in this one because it's a 1-drop, easy to get out early, and it's only like 20 cents. Just thought I'd mention one removal spell here. It's Wakening Sun's Avatar, 5 triple white for a 7/7 dinosaur avatar. It says when Wakening Sun's Avatar enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, you destroy all non-dinosaur creatures. So this one, you might want to wait until a little bit later in the game till you have your Maskwood Nexus out. You know, 8 mana for a one-sided board wipe, I think it's actually worth it later in the game, because when are you going to be casting board wipe? It's going to be later in the game once the board is a little out of control. And if you have the 8 mana, why not do it? Especially if you're keeping all your creatures, it's really not setting you back much at all. You know, you have to take 1 turn off to cast it for 8 mana, but it's so worth it to get all those creatures off your opponent's board. You can go to town straight after that. Couple of lands to talk about here. Ally Encampment, one of my favorite changeling lands. Taps for colorless or 1 mana of any color, but only to cast allies, which helps out for our changelings. Not like we're really going to need fixing in this deck. It's mono white, but the important part of this land, pay 1, tap it, sacrifice it, return target ally you control to its owner's hand. 2 ways we can use this. The first one is to save one of our changelings. If it would happen to die, we can just bounce it back to our hand, or later in the game, if we're not drawing the cards we need, you can bounce one of our changelings back to our hand to recast it to get another cast trigger off of our commander. I also threw in Animal Sanctuary, taps for colorless, pay 2, tap it, and you put a +1/+1 counter on target one of these creature types, which is basically all of your creatures. Also threw in Seraph Sanctuary. When it ETBs, you gain a life. Whenever an angel ETBs under your control, you gain a life, and taps for colorless. So I like this one specifically because it also cares about the copies that are coming in from your commander. So every time you cast a changeling, you're going to be gaining 2 life. Definitely adds up over time. Next up here, I have the utility category, just some cards that don't really fit into the other categories, but definitely really help our deck come together. I was talking about bouncing cards back to our hands to reuse them earlier. Probably the best way to do that in the deck is Erratic Portal. It's a 4-mana artifact. You pay 1, tap it, return target creature to its owner's hand unless its controller pays 1. So obviously you're going to choose yourself with this, bounce back one of of your changelings, the cheapest one you have, obviously, and then neglect to pay the one, it gets bounced back to your hand, you get to recast it. Surprisingly enough, I have a couple of tutors in the deck. I threw in Lin Civi, Defiant Hero, 1 white for a 1/3 human rebel. You pay X, tap it, you search your library for a rebel permanent card with mana value X or less, put on the battlefield, then shuffle. Then the second ability, you can pay 3 and put target rebel card from your graveyard on top of your library. So if your changelings happen to die, you can get them back out of your graveyard. Also, it's really cool that it basically searches out any creature once you have your Masquerade Nexus in play. Only downside to this ability is it goes straight into play, so you don't get the cast trigger off of your commander. Still really worth it because you can bounce it back to your hand with the Radic Portal or some other effect. Also, one of the most ridiculous cards in any changeling deck, I've talked about it on my channel before, it's Realmbreaker, the Invasion Tree. It's a 3-mana legendary artifact. I'm not going to talk about the first ability because it's not really important. However, it is ramp in certain situations. The important ability is you pay 10, tap it, sacrifice it, search your library for any number of Praetor cards, put them on the battlefield, then shuffle. So on its face, if you don't have your Masquerade Nexus out, you search your library for all of your changelings and put them on the battlefield. Or if you have your Masquerade Nexus, you can get any number of creatures out of your library and put them straight in the battlefield. It is 10 mana. It is a lot. Also, you are definitely leaving yourself susceptible to a board wipe if you happen to grab every creature in your deck. I wouldn't go that far. I'd leave some in my deck. You know, you're paying 10 mana, maybe get at least 10 mana worth of stuff, maybe a little bit more, so you're, actually getting advantage from that, or just enough to close out the game. So in case somebody, Teferi's Protections or something like that, you don't absolutely get screwed. I also threw in cards like Strionic Resonator, 2-mana artifact, pay 2, tap it, copy target triggered ability you control, choosing targets for the copy. This one is in here just to copy our commander's effect. Paying 2 mana to get an extra copy of one of our changelings seems definitely worth the mana in my opinion. And then unlike my other decks, I actually threw in some budget upgrades. If anyone's looking to put this together in paper, there's just some really good cards that I wanted to talk about that don't fit into my normal budget price range. The first one is Song of the World Soul, 4 white for an enchantment. It says whenever you cast a spell, you populate. So populating in this deck is massive. Whenever you copy one of the changelings with Thurid, that's going to create a token copy of that changeling, and then later on when you cast any spell, you populate that same changeling, so you're going to be getting tons of copies of all your changelings. That's really going to help strengthen your team. Another great suggestion, Ocelot Pride. If you have the $40, it is expensive, but it's a really freaking good card in this deck. 1 single white mana for a 1/1 cat. First strike, lifelink, ascend. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, you create a 1/1 white cat creature token. Then if you have the City's Blessing, for each token you control that enters the battlefield this turn, create a token that's a copy of it. So fortunately, with the Ocelot Pride, you can make tokens of your creatures, and it also has lifelink. However, our commander also has lifelink, so we could be getting those cat tokens as well. Then the last card I would suggest is Lithoform Engine, 4 mana legendary artifact. Basically, this is a second copy of Strionic Resonator. You pay 2, tap it, copy target activated or triggered ability. You can also pay 3, copy target instant sorcery, or pay 4 and copy target permanent spell you control. So these are like 3 great ways that we can get extra copies of all of our changelings if you wanted to put a little bit more money in this deck and make it a little more viable. So that's pretty much all I've got for the Thurid Mare of Destiny deck. This one definitely seems like a lot of fun. Like I said, I'm really liking a lot of the changeling decks lately. It's funny how this happens. I think I just saw Wizards was coming out with a changeling secret layer, so timing is funny on this one. But if you want to check out the full deck list, I have it down in the description. Go ahead and click that Architect link. That's pretty much all I've got for today, guys. Go ahead and subscribe down below if you like this content and you want to see more. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, take care.